Okay, so I recorded 3 videos, and when I went to upload them, sound was there, but the picture was not. So I'm going to just basically go over what I did there, um, just real fast. Okay. So I have my notes here that I want to cover. So seam allowance. Seam allowance is from the seam to the raw edge. So from the seam that was sewn, hopefully you can see that in pink, to the raw edge. Now most seam allowances are a half an inch. They can be 5/8 of an inch, and that's usually on your commercial patterns. And sometimes on your armholes and your necklines, they can go down to 1/4 of an inch or 3/8 of an inch. But usually what I do is just keep it simple and just do a half an inch all the way around, except for on the side seams. I do 1 inch, and I do that for wiggle room. So just in case, I need some extra room, I have that extra seam allowance to play with on the side seams. And I also do a 1 inch seam allowance for zipper, for the zipper allowance. Feel free to do 5/8. I believe you can even do half an inch for an invisible zipper. But I just do the 1 inch. So a seam is basically the stitch that you sew from top to wherever your end point is. So again, from top to wherever your end point is, that is your seam or stitch line. And let's see, basic pressing techniques when it comes to that is, once you do a seam, so you stitch it from top to bottom, you're going to press the seam flat. So you're just going to press over the stitches that you did, and what that does is melt the stitches into the actual fabric. And then you're going to open the seam. Let's see if I can open it and you can see. Okay, so again, press the seam flat, and then you're going to open up the seam and press it. So that's your pressing techniques for whenever you do a seam. Whenever you sew a seam, that's your next step, is to press it flat and then open it up and press it open. Okay, and while we're at this, again, like I said, this wasn't like this before. It's because I lost the videos, so these are already kind of done. But let's talk about curves. So you have a outer curve, which is called a convex curve, and you have a inner curve, which is called concave curve. So I'll just use outer and inner. Outer curves, trying to think where you can kind of see that. Most definitely inner curves you can see on your necklines. Sometimes outer curves you can see on the armhole. Okay, so for outer curves, you have to make little V's, and all this does is make the seam lay flat. So once you sew your seam, then you're going to clip these little V's up to your stitch line, but not through your stitch line, because you don't want to mess up the work you did. So you want to just clip to the stitch line, but not through it. So what you, okay, so for the outer curves, again, you clip in the V's up to the stitch line, but not through it. And an alternative to using just the clipping the V's, which can take a little bit of time, you can use your pinking shears, and it just basically makes little V's. Does the same thing. Now for your inner curves, what you do is just cut straight lines, and again it's to the stitch line but not through it. And you see when I open them, you can see them. So again, all you did was take scissors and just cut straight down. Again, to stitch line but not through the stitch line. Now show you how to pin. All right, so the next thing is pinning. Oh, actually, let me show you. I'm not sure if that came through. It was on the last video, but not sure if it came through on this one. Oh, actually, I can't. But what I want to show you is these are heat erasable pens, and they come in 4 colors: black, blue, white, and red. And they are very versatile. And again, I wish I had saved the other one, because I actually wrote on this one. It was like welcome, welcome to the sewing class. I actually wrote the words. And all you do is take an iron and you iron over it. And then as you iron over it, the words disappear. So I promise you, words was here. And it just disappeared. And I would do it again, but my iron just is not on right now. But if I were you, I would definitely use that. And so show you about pinning now. And the reason why I brought that up is because these blue marks is from that heat erasable pen. And the reason why I do these marks is because this is from a custom pattern. And so I want to keep the integrity of the actual shape of the pattern. And sometimes when you just cut on the seam allowance, sometimes you can cut off. So what I do is actually mark the outside of the pattern with the marking, so that way I can ensure that I have the correct shape. So again, remember, we are right sides together. So obviously this is my wrong side because I wrote all on it. So we're going to do right sides together. And this is just a project that, like I said, that I'm working on. And I'll just do a little bit of pinning. So again, what you want is, you want, because as you sew, you want the majority of your fabric to the left of you, right? So the majority of the fabric will be to the left of me, and I will be sewing along the lines here. So as you sew, remember the pens that I like to use are the ballpoint pens, and the glass head will be preferred. But it, you know, if you can't find it or just have the ballpoints, that's fine too. And so what you do is the ballpoint will extend to the right of you, like that. So it will extend off the fabric, if that, you know, it's better to type to remember. And I usually pin maybe an inch apart. And remember, what you're doing is lining up, you know, your 2 pieces of fabric. Make sure that the raw edges are meeting. And basically that's just how you pin. And so as you sew, you don't sew over your pens, because metal to metal, the needle is metal, you can break that. So before you get to it, you will remove the pen. And so as you get to it, remove the pen. So that is penning. And I think I covered everything that was in those other 3 videos that I lost. Any questions? Make sure to ask me, make sure to review, make sure to practice. And what I thought I'm going to do also is once a month probably just have a Q&A session on all the, have a Q&A session on just all the sessions, info sessions that we had for that particular month. And that'll be live. I don't know if it's Zoom that we would do or if we would do YouTube. But I'm thinking we're going to do that as well. So now I'm going to edit these and get these up to you. I would have got them up to you earlier, but like I said, I lost those 3, and so I had to come and do a quick recap of the info that was on those 3. Okay, happy sewing.